The wide receiver position is a tricky one to scout. There are different builds and traits that can make one super successful, and it can be hard to tell if something like ego or injury risk will get in the way of long-term success. Diva receivers and flameouts are everywhere in today's NFL, and yet it's still one of the most highly drafted positions. Because of this, we've seen a lot of great receivers slip through the cracks of the scouting process and even succeed despite their low draft stock. One of these guys is Nico Collins, who was the 14th wide receiver drafted in 2021, but has emerged as a true top weapon and one of the better wideouts in the league. So in today's video, we're going to go over who the 13 wide receivers were that were drafted before Nico Collins. Now, luckily for us, though, the first three that have been drafted before, or at least the first three that were drafted in 2021, have become superstars in the NFL so far. Taken at number 5 overall by the Cincinnati Bengals was Jamar Chase and is the biggest name of the entire class. He's averaged 87.5 yards per game since being drafted, good for 3rd in the NFL in that span. He's also caught the most receiving touchdowns in football since 2021 with 46. Jamar was Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2021 and has made the Pro Bowl every season of his career and was named first team All-Pro after winning the receiving Triple Crown this past year in 2024. Honestly, you could even argue that he is the best wide receiver in the NFL, probably better than Justin Jefferson. Obviously, not many people want to hear that, but either way, the dude is due for a earth-shattering contract in 2025.
In the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jaylen Waddle, wide receiver, Alabama.
Now, connecting with first-year starter Tua Tagovailoa, Waddle was excellent right out of the gate. He went for 1,000 yards and 100 receptions in his rookie season, but his value was questioned when the Dolphins traded for Tyreek Hill in 2022. Luckily for everyone involved, Waddle shot through the roof with 75 catches for 1,300 yards, leading the league in yards per reception with 18.1, and he also set a career high in touchdowns with 8. He posted a 3rd straight 1,000-yard season in 2023, earning a 3-year, $85 million extension, but without Tua Tagovailoa under center in 2024, thanks to multiple injuries, he had a much less productive season, as well as just the entire team as a whole. And I mean, who knows? Maybe Tyreek Hill is no longer going to be a Dolphin in 2025, so that could raise the question of if Waddle is their number 1 receiver, what is his true ceiling now that he will be a number 1 receiver for the Dolphins?
The Philadelphia Eagles select Devonta Smith.
And what's crazy about this pick right here is that despite winning the Heisman in 2020 and damn near every other award in college football for being a wide receiver, Smith was still considered a risky pick due to his 6', 170-pound frame. Smith's early career did take a similar trajectory to Waddle's, as he was also his team's top receiving option, connecting with a first-time starter in Jalen Hurts. And just like the Dolphins, the Eagles also traded for a top-tier wide receiver in 2022.
3rd-round pick for one of the best young wide receivers in the NFL, A.J. Brown.
Since Brown's addition to Philly, Smith has been both better and extremely consistent with only one moderately long-term injury. Smith went with the Eagles on their run to the Super Bowl in 2022 after a 1,200-yard receiving season, and despite having a career low in yards in 2024, he still caught 8 touchdowns as one of the biggest threats on an Eagles roster that added Saquon Barkley to their loaded offense. The man known as Skinny Batman signed a 3-year, $75 million contract before the 2024 season, and depending on how Philly performs in the 2024 playoffs and beyond, that could be an absolute bargain for him. 10 picks later, though, we get our first bust, as well as probably the biggest bust of this draft. Cadarius Toney was drafted to the New York Jets after they traded down with the Chicago Bears. And I mean, honestly, this Giants offense was by no means good in 2021, and Toney missed a good chunk of the season, only totaling 39 catches for 420 yards, which broke Odell Beckham Jr.'s Giants rookie single game record. These flashes honestly made him desirable when New York decided to move on in 2022, and the Kansas City Chiefs sent a 3rd and 6th round pick to acquire him. He was moderately productive in the second half of the 2022 season and had a few moments in Super Bowl 57, including a Super Bowl record 65-yard punt return and a go-ahead touchdown catch. In the following season, however, despite hopes for a breakout year, Toney was a non-factor on the field and missed most of the back half of the season with injury before getting himself benched for the playoffs due to injury and personal reasons, which he complained about on Instagram Live. And I mean, as crazy as it sounds, he technically is a 2-time Super Bowl champion with the Chiefs, but Toney had a short stint with the Browns where he played 1 game before being cut. Any goodwill built by his physical talent talent has been spent, and now the name Cadarius Toney is synonymous with first-round busts at the receiver position. The final receiver taken in the first round, though, was by the Ravens, and it was Rashod Bateman. Limited by injuries throughout his first 2 seasons, Bateman showcased good footwork, but a lack of talent to be the top receiving option on a Baltimore team that demanded a wide receiver 1. In 2024, however, though, with him being finally fully healthy and playing an entire season for the most part, he has become a legit second option for the Ravens that they have so desperately needed. He caught 45 passes for 756 yards and 9 touchdowns this year. Bateman established himself as a great presence in the Baltimore locker room, earning a 2-year, $13 million extension before 2024, which looked like a discount after his breakout season. And while he isn't ever going to be a superstar, Bateman has definitely found a home with the Ravens.
The New York Jets select future Pro Bowler, Elijah Moore, wide receiver.
Now, Elijah Moore did deliver on being the top target for Wilson when he was with the Jets and led the Jets in targets, receiving yards, and receptions and touchdowns in 2021, although that's not saying a ton with the 2021 Jets. He didn't really progress in 2022 despite playing 5 more games than he had in 2021, and despite his improved health, he caught fewer passes for fewer yards and had only 1 touchdown that year. He was then traded to the Cleveland Browns for a 2nd-round pick in 2023, where he had a career year setting career highs in receptions and yards, but struggled to find the end zone again. He waned with the Browns in 2024 with their wonky quarterback situation, but with an expiring contract, Moore will hit the open market as a solid 3rd option in 2025, looking to earn a spot on someone's roster. Rondale Moore from Purdue was the next draft pick by the Arizona Cardinals at 49th overall. I mean, the dude was a speed freak with a 4.32 40-yard dash, and Moore was brought into Glendale as a special teamer in deep threat for Kyler Murray. I mean, honestly, after his first 2 games, the dude looked like an absolute steal, but then never really panned out after that. He totaled 11 catches for 182 yards and a score, but the rest of his season was extremely quiet. His production declined in each subsequent season, never catching more than 450 yards in a season or catching more than 1 touchdown in an entire year. He was traded to the Falcons for backup quarterback Desmond Ridder, but before he could even get a fresh start, Moore went down with a knee injury, missing all of 2024. Now, further down the board, though, was Western Michigan's Dwayne Eskridge, drafted 56 overall by the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, honestly, Dwayne Eskridge is a textbook bust, considering that he has really never started an NFL game in his career. Eskridge has amassed just 20 receptions for 166 yards and a single receiving touchdown. He was suspended in 2023 for personal conduct issues involving an arrest and was waived before the 2024 season. He did appear in 6 games with the Dolphins in 2024, but has had a negligible impact everywhere he's played. Now, just 1 pick later, though, came Tutu Atwell, selected by the Los Angeles Rams at pick 57. Like Rashod Bateman at the end of the first round, Atwell was shown an ability to contribute despite not having the ability to be a top guy. After missing most of the 2021 season with injury, his usage has definitely increased in every single season of his career, even with the rise of weapons like Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua. He didn't score a touchdown in 2024, but set career highs in receptions with 42 and yards with 562. Without eye-popping numbers, though, Tutu won't be a high-value free agent in the 2025 offseason, but he's shown solid talent and a willingness to work as the 4th or 5th option. Truly, he's got upside with great speed, although he doesn't have the size or the hands to really be a top weapon. And now at the end of the 2nd round, though, Terrence Marshall was selected by the Carolina Panthers at 59th overall. Marshall was brought in as a developmental piece in a veteran receiving room with DJ Moore, Robbie Chosen-Anderson, and Brandon Zylstra. And I mean, honestly, instead of them trying to mentor and kind of help Terrence Marshall become a good wide receiver, the veterans instead pretty much just took his playing time because of how bad he was. As a rookie, he caught 17 passes for 138 yards, but he took a bit of a step forward in 2022, almost reaching 500 yards and catching his only NFL touchdown, but his progress pretty much stopped there. He played 9 games in 2023 and was waived before the next season. Since then, though, he signed with the Raiders this year, but only caught 3 passes in 7 games with them. Honestly, maybe he would have been more successful with a better nickname than TMJ, but more likely he was just drafted to a Panthers team that couldn't develop players to save their lives. And I mean, honestly, as we get to the 3rd round, though, we actually do start to to find some gems, especially guys like Josh Palmer, who the LA Chargers selected with the 77th overall pick. As I said, luckily for him, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were actually good role models, and Justin Herbert was competent under center. He caught 33 passes for 353 yards and 3 touchdowns as a rookie, and made his name stepping up when his teammates did miss time with injury. His best year came in 2022 though, when both Williams and Allen did miss some time, and he finished the season second on the Chargers with yards with 3 touchdowns once again. The rest of his career has followed a similar path, nearly reaching 600 yards in back-to-back seasons and having a decent day whenever he finds a lucky matchup. It definitely will be interesting to follow in the future, although he's certainly not a super weapon on his own.
The Washington football team selects De'Ami Brown.
Now, to be frank with Brown, he's never really stood out on the Commanders team, but this year with Jayden Daniels, something just clicked with him. He caught 30 passes for 308 yards and a touchdown, but his ceiling appears to be very low as he's only started 10 games in his career despite never suffering a serious injury. He did, however, have a brilliant 89 yards and a touchdown to help Jayden Daniels become the first rookie quarterback to win a road playoff game since 2012, contributing to the 23-20 victory over Tampa Bay in the wildcard round. And honestly, who knows, maybe that could kickstart a better run for Brown. The final player taken before Nico Collins though was with the Green Bay Packers selection at pick 85, with the use of it coming on Amari Rodgers. Rodgers is honestly just one of those players who has moved around most early in his career, and after catching just 8 passes for 95 yards across 26 games as a Packer, Rodgers was waived and claimed by the Houston Texans. He did find himself taking steps forward in Houston in 2022, appearing in 6 games and going for 154 yards and his sole career receiving touchdown. Despite his progress though, he wasn't retained for the 2023 season and signed with the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, truly, despite some of the busts on this list feeling bigger or even more dramatic, Amari Rodgers is the only one who didn't find himself on an NFL roster in 2024. Now though, we get to the man of the hour in Nico Collins, and also you could even call him one of the saviors of the Houston Texans. Drafted 89th overall, Collins was just the 3rd player from Michigan drafted in 2021. In his first 2 seasons, he really didn't seem to be much better than his draft status, catching 35 passes per season from Davis Mills for less than 500 yards per season. That all changed though when rookie quarterback CJ Stroud was brought to Houston in 2023 though. Something between him and Collins just seemed to click. He caught 80 passes for just under 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns, and all without being a full-time starter. Collins made the Pro Bowl and was Stroud's #1 guy, helping to lead the team to the playoffs in a win over the Browns, in which Collins scored a touchdown as well. With that massive season under his belt, Collins signed a 3-year, $52 million extension with the Texans. In 2024 though, despite being limited by injuries, Collins once again passed the 1,000-yard mark and had 7 touchdowns, helping the Texans win the AFC South for the 2nd consecutive year. I mean, honestly, with benefit of hindsight, there are probably only a few receivers in this entire class that I would take over Collins. Those guys include like Amon-Ra St. Brown, taking 23 picks after Collins, who are all top receivers in the league today. I mean, truly, the 2021 draft class was already loaded with future Hall of Famers like Penei Sewell and Creed Humphrey, but the receiver class should be legendary for the amount of high-end talent it produced, while a superstar like Nico Collins still somehow got lost all the way into the late 3rd round. And if you want to see what NFL players actually think about Jalen Hurts, then click this video right here.